We continue Unit 4 Regressions with equations of best fit with predictions. R is called the correlation coefficient, and it indicates how closely the data fits that model. The closer R is to 1 or -1, the better the fit. Write 6 decimal places for R because the difference between R values is often slight. Once you've determined the equation of best fit, you can graph it and use the graph to make predictions. You have to make sure that the data is in the calculator and that you've graphed a scatter plot. To graph the line of best fit, you need to paste the best equation for y into y equals. If you have already done other regressions since that one, then you must recalculate the regression that you need in order to have it into the calculator's memory. On the next 2 pages of your photable are also some more calculator steps that we will be using. These steps are how to graph the equation of best fit once we have all of our information in the computer. So, in order to make predictions, the calculator's viewing window must be large enough to contain the values you are predicting. You may need to change the window before you do these predictions. And we can make predictions using our graph and our calculator if we're given the x value or if we're given the y value, and these are more steps that we will be using in our photable. In example 1, we want to calculate all 4 regression models using the information that we learned from the last lesson for the following data and determine which is the equation of best fit. So at this time, we need to input our information into the calculator. First, turn on your calculator, clear out any information that is already in there. Now press Stat, make sure Edit is highlighted, hit Enter. At this time, enter List 1 and List 2. When you are finished, be sure and verify that your list is correct. Go to Y equals, turn on your plot, arrow back down to make sure that your plot is turned on. Make sure Y1 is clear. Go to Window and reset your specifications. X min should be 0. X max should be higher than the smallest max of 28. I'm going to choose 30. X scale is 0. Y min is 0. We want in the first quadrant because these are all positive. Most of your real situations are in the first quadrant. Y max is pick a number for Y max that's slightly larger than 7.4, so 10 is good. Y scale is 0. Now we can see our graph. We also need to draw our scatter plot per directions. When you draw your scatter plot, make sure to have an X and Y on your coordinate plane. Make sure that everything has a title. Make sure your X and Y have been named. Now that you have drawn your scatter plot, let's find linear regression. Using the steps on the previous page, go to Y equals, clear out anything that's in Y equals. While the cursor is in Y1, go ahead, press the vars key. Vars is right here beside the clear key. You want statistics, so you're going to press 5 and right over to equation, so hit Enter. Now let's find out which regression would be the better fit. Let's start with linear. Stat, Edit, List 1, List 2. Y equals, turn plot on. Clear out anything in Y. Window, Graph, we have our graph. Now go to Stat, Cal, 4, Enter. Oops, I do not have my R, so I need to get my correlation coefficient. Second, 0, X to the inverse down. Diagnostic on. Now, go to Y equals, press the vars key, 5 for statistics, right arrow to EQ, and enter. Y equals 0.321 X minus 2.983. The correlation coefficient is out the 6 decimal places, so 0.929839. Now let's look at exponential regression. So we want to go to press Stat, Edit, List 1, List 2, Y equals, clear out what's in the calculator, turn on the plot, make sure it's highlighted, go to Window, change the window as needed, Graph. Now let's do the exponential, Stat, Edit, arrow down to exponential, Enter. Y equals 0.050 times 1.210 raised to the x, and the correlation coefficient is 0.987661. Now let's look at the power regression. Stat, Calc, arrow down to power regression, hit enter, and you should have this on your calculator screen. The power regression equation will be in this format: y equals 8.386 times 10 to the negative 4 times x raised to the 2.690. The correlation coefficient is 0.994980. Very good. Now let's get the logarithmic equation. Stat, right over to Calc, arrow down to logarithmic. The equation for logarithmic is, so the equation of best fit will follow this formula. Y equals A is negative 8269 plus 3.962 times the log of x. And the correlation coefficient is 0.818601. Now we need to figure out which regression model gives the equation of best fit. Looking at all the correlation coefficients, the value that is closest to 1 or negative 1 belongs to the power regression, because this is the biggest number. Now we're going to predict some things. What will be the weight of a 35-inch salmon? Now we want to put this equation into y equals. So go to y equals, hit the vars key, number 5, and right arrow to equation. Now the equation has been input into y1 of the calculator. Now graph. Obviously I did not choose the correct graph, so obviously I didn't choose the correct graph. Let me start over. Stat, Calc, let me find out what happened. Oh, I have the logarithmic regression. I need the power regression. So I need to put this information, I need to delete it and get the power regression. Stat, Calc, arrow down to power, enter. There we go. This is what I want. Now go to y equals, clear out this equation, it is incorrect. Vars 5, right arrow to EQ, and enter. Now graph it. This one looks a whole lot better. Now, once I have this line drawn, I can predict the weight of a 35-inch salmon. I am given the X. I need to find the Y. So go up a page in your notes, and it says to make a prediction. If you are given an X value, press the second key, Calc key and select value. Enter. Now the calculator is asking us what is the x value, and the x value that we're going to put in is 35. Notice when I put 35 into my calculator, I got an error, invalid. That means I need to check one. First thing I always check is my stat list, but I got the equation, so I don't have to check that. However, I'm telling the calculator to go to what is the weight of a 35-inch salmon, and my x values do not go to 35. I need to make that happen. Go to Window, change the window to something bigger than 35 for the x max. How about 40? We do second, trace. We want the value. Plug in 35. The weight of the fish will be 11.932 pounds. How long would you expect a 10-pound salmon to be? So now I'm actually looking for the x, but I'm given the y, the weight. If you're given the y value, press Y in the calculator. Type the given y value into Y2. Check your window to make sure that given value is good, and it is. Press second calc and 5 for the intersection. 5. Enter, enter, enter. So my fish, if it weighed 10 pounds, you could expect it to be 32.77 inches long.